In this video, I'm going to be discussing the advantages of using multimedia as part of the curriculum in a high school math classroom. Multimedia is any combination of pictures, video, audio, animation, or text, and hypermedia is a type of multimedia which adds in an interactive component. So one of the biggest advantages of using multimedia is the increased motivation that students have. As Rob Lyer and Doering state on page 176 of Integrating Educational Technology into Teaching, multimedia encourages students to be proactive learners, which is what we want all of our students to be, right? Proactive. So this year, I've been using a program called Desmos in my classroom on a daily basis, particularly in my pre-calculus class. And I feel that it has helped my students by increasing their motivation, their engagement, as well as their depth of understanding. I'm also going to show you some examples of how I use videos. I create my own screen capture videos, and I also look for other videos to include into my class websites on Moodle and Canvas. And so I'm going to show you some examples of that right now. So now I'm going to look at some examples of how I've used multimedia as part of my classes. But first I want to give you a little bit of a background. I work for a charter school district that has mostly homeschooled students, and so they only actually have class with me twice a week for about an hour and a half, which really is not enough time to completely cover all of the content. And so we have Moodles for every one of our classes. This is my pre-calculus classes Moodle, and we also use Canvas as well, and then we post things on there. And so I integrate videos and multimedia into this a lot to supplement what we learn on the in-class days, and sometimes just to have the availability of having those links available for students. So for example, in my pre-calculus class, I created a page of animations for the unit circle and trig functions because we were learning about the graphs of sine and cosine, and we had already gone over the unit circle, and I wanted to help my students connect the graphs to the unit circle itself. And so I had prepared all of these. Some I made, some that I found. And so I've mentioned Desmos before in this blog, and Desmos has the ability to do more than just have students graph things and see what they look like. It has the ability for people to share their created graphs. So this person created a graph that showed the relationship between the points on the unit circle and how it relates to a right triangle and sine and cosine. And so I didn't make this, I found this, and it's completely shareable, and so I shared it with my students. And then not only can they just look at it, they had the ability to play with it. And here's another one. This was something that really blew their minds because they can see the graph of the sine function, because the sine was the y value, and they can see how it relates to the y value of the points on the unit circle. And if they wanted to, they can pause it. So it's more powerful than just a visual animation. They can actually see, not just see, but they could play with and stop it and compare things and change things and see how things were going to change because of that. So Desmos is a really powerful tool that could be used to create videos or be an interactive element. So it's more hypermedia than just multimedia. And then I also included in that list an animation that showed some of the same things as well. And so this wasn't Desmos, so this wasn't the same as the last one where they could play with it, they can interact with it, but still this has a powerful effect on helping them see how the unit circle is created to the sine, connected to the sine and cosine function. Another thing that Desmos has is they have these cool little activities that help them sort of connect things. So this would be like an Algebra 1 or maybe even younger kind of concept, where you watch a little video of the little guy going outside of the cannon. You can pause it at any time. And the idea is you want to create a graph of the little guy as he goes up and down over time for his height. And this was a really difficult concept for some of my students when we went over this. And if I had known about this at the time, I totally would have shown them this and made them practice this, because it really interacts them into how the height and is changing over time. And so I can put a little dot here, and then I can push play and pause it and be like, okay, he's going here. And they can see the connection of points on a graph to motion. And then maybe they can kind of draw the whole thing. And then they can push play to watch it. And they can see how to change it. So they can see that mine isn't very good. And then it goes on to ask them a little bit more questions. And some other interactive things where you watch a video and now we're going to watch and make another graph. So these are some other examples of how Desmos can be used. Now, as I mentioned, I work in a unique environment where I only see my students 2 days a week. So a major aspect of my classes is adding in videos. So on their Moodles, or we also use Canvas. Here's a Canvas for my Math 1 class. They see what they have to do, and this is a video that I made using Snagit, which is a screen capture software, and just a little bit of ingenuity with a pen and Microsoft Word and that kind of stuff. And I went over a worksheet that we did in class, but we didn't have time to go over it, and I wanted them to be able to know all the answers and how to get all these answers. So I just embedded it directly into their class website where they can watch it at any time.
Okay, we're going to look at the answers
And
to the Chapter 5.
they can skip to the part that they needed. I even told them they didn't have to watch the whole thing because it turned out to be about 30 minutes. And I knew that most students weren't going to have the patience for that. They could just go to the problem that they had a question on. They could watch it 100 times if they needed to. That's the power of integrating video, that it's just not going to happen in a real life conversation in a classroom. And so I also integrate videos from other websites, things that are already done well, or things that there's no need to do again, right? So I use Khan Academy, I use other video websites, and I integrate it into my classroom as well. So mostly I do those on days where they're not going to be in class, or they're easy topics and they don't need me for that, or they need more help on a specific thing. The options are limitless for what you can do with integrating video for students. Sometimes I make it required, sometimes I make it an optional thing, like this was optional. But it's available for them. It's available 24/7. So those are some good examples of how we can integrate multimedia and the advantages of doing so for our students. So thank you for watching.